Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video. So this time we are going to be taking a look at an upcoming medieval PvP survival MMO called Renown. So what actually is it though that sets this game apart? What is it all about? What makes it different from other sort of survival games in the genre? Well, for me, one of the primary things is the attitude to PvP and its importance in the game. And by that, I mean it's the main part, it's the main focus. The survival, the resource gathering, the base building, these all end up playing second fiddle to the PvP. You're not going to be spending hours upon hours grinding for resources. There's no hunger or thirst bar you need to satisfy every few minutes. You're not going to be going out farming just to gather enough wheat to bake some bread so you can actually go on a run or a raid. That is all irrelevant. This is simplified survival, so you can actually spend time focusing on the fun part of the game, which is the fighting and the combat and the PvP, which is what the game is supposed to be all about. But having said that, there is still some very decent looking at base building systems in the game, which is probably why I'll call the title of this video a Medieval Rust or something like that. Although maybe this should be what Reign of Kings should have been all along, but quite spectacularly failed to do. But anyway, base building. So it'll all start with resource gathering, which is heavily centered around cart mechanics. You know, you're going to take your cart everywhere, and this should allow you to travel pretty decent distances on resource gathering runs, carry large amount of resources, and sort of really cut down on the amount of grinding. I mean, as I said at the start, this appears to be the whole mantra for this game. It's supposed to be simple and not grindy. It's not yet been confirmed or anything, but you know, I'm not expecting there to be 17 different types of wood to harvest just to build one section of palisade wall. It's supposed to be simple. The cart system should really allow you to quickly knock up a small fortified house with a little palisade wall and building to protect your land claim flag. You and your group, and yes, the game is pretty heavily group focused, and whilst there is some allowance for solo play, the devs have previously stated that they intend to balance the game around group play. I mean, that's the plan all along. But back to the base building, your group can then expand this into a town and eventually a pretty awesome looking castle. But perhaps easily my favourite part of the whole base building system is the centralized warehouse. Once built, you can deposit all your resources into it. The land holds the warehouse from there, and if you want to craft, a sword on the other side of the base at the blacksmith, so long as the required resources are in the warehouse, it will automatically draw those resources, draw from them, and start crafting the sword. Building a new building on the other side, so long as the warehouse has the required resources, you don't have to go back to the warehouse to take them out, put them in your inventory, walk over to use them. Why more games don't take advantage of such a centralized warehouse system is beyond me, because it seems like such a great way of simplifying things and really reducing the amount of resource movement you need to do, and hopefully allows you more time to be out in the open world trying to, hunt down and kill other players. So, talking of hunting down other players, what is the combat system actually all about in Renown? It seems to be like a little bit of a mix of Mortal, Rust and Chivalry, all sort of rolled into one. Although from the footage we have seen so far, it actually seems kind of a little bit more gritty, realistic, and I guess weighted is probably the right word. No bunny hopping around with a frying pan. And the developers have stated in one of their FAQ videos that, spin to win will not be working, there's only going to be overhead reverse drags and all this sort of stuff that we see in Mortal. It's going to be a much more realistic combat game in that sense. Instead you're going to be timing your swings with faster or slower attacks to try and throw off the enemy's block. There will be ripostes to rapidly strike back at enemies and quickly counter them. Whilst their combat test seems to be mostly focused around sort of two-handed swords, there should also be a pretty large array of different weapons to pick from when the game actually releases. So I'm really looking forward to testing out some of the different stuff. So if we combine the combat with the base building, of course, we end up at raiding. I did say this was a medieval Rust back at the start. So this is going to be the backbone of the PvP system, the event that actually stages the fights and depending on the scale of the raid and the size of the base you'll actually be attacking, this will probably occur in a few different ways. From small sort of handheld entry battering rams and tools, to pretty much full-scale medieval siege battles, with siege towers, battering rams, trebuchets and catapults, to either sort of scale and go over the top of the walls with siege towers, or simply use some of your siege equipment to put a hole in them. Ultimately, the goal here isn't to completely destroy the enemy base and smash it to pieces, but to create a breach and opportunity so you can get in, raid and steal the enemy resources. This kind of then leads to the question of, what is the endgame? Well, I guess somewhat like Rust, there will be very regular server wipes, often occurring every few weeks, so that things can sort of be kept pretty fresh, as well as giving an opportunity and allowing new players to get stuck in without everyone else already being in full plate armour with 7 swords and 3 crossbows. This kind of gives you a little bit of an idea as well of how quickly they are intending the grind through the starting parts of the game to be. It's obviously set up so that groups will be reaching the end game level equipment within a couple to a few weeks. So it really gives you an idea of how little the grind is actually going to be on this game. Having said this though, there are going to be player run servers, and the admins will have the tools to decide when server wipe times are going to be. If you wanted to be around for quite a bit longer to test out some of the different stuff or build up a much larger base and not get reset, then that is also going to be an option as well. So hopefully that actually gives you a really decent overview of what the game is all about. I think my title for this video is actually pretty spot on: a medieval Rust. The focus is the combat and the base building, not the grind that it takes to get the base built in the first place. Of course, we are still very much a long way away from any of this. Currently, there is only a combat build, and the game is very much in the early stages of development. And as with Reign of Kings, we have all been here before, and all been stung before, so I guess we need to be careful to not get too excited too early, but it certainly does look very promising. And it's certainly a game that I'm going to be keeping an eye on going forwards. I'd recommend, if you do want to know more about it, I'll put a link to their Discord down below, so I'd recommend you go and check that out over there. They seem to be pretty active over there, both sort of interacting with the player base and also putting out about announcements about what's happening, what's changing, what they're working on, etc., and all that sort of good stuff. But anyway, that is all I've got time for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, do let me know what you think about this game in the comments down below. Do let me know if you're looking forward to it, think it looks good, or if you're not sure. And of course, subscribe to the channel because we'll be having lots more Renown news and content as the game develops. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next one.